It's like we've got some attendees joining right now. We're going to give it a couple more minutes to let everyone filter in. And then we'll have Cole from the CompanyCam team pull up the deck that we'll be presenting, and then we'll get things started. But in the meantime, we'll pass it over to Chris for some fun dad jokes.
Hey, come on. This is what I do. This is my thing, my shtick. All right. I mean, everybody loves a dad joke. What a better way to kill time? Do you know, Kevin, actually, I'll start with you. Do you know where pencils go on vacation?
Where do they go, Chris?
An easy one. Come on.
You're good.
Pennsylvania.
Oh, of course.
Come on. Oh, now,
That was a good
Karis, you
one.
said you are an expert in dad jokes.
Yeah, I
You,
hear enough of them and
all
tell them.
right.
So
You
so
know,
you
you're going to
know,
share yours after too.
yeah, it
But you
it
know,
does it makes me a faux pas.
there you go. See, we're
So
full of them
yeah,
here.
that's
But
right.
Karis, do you know where animals go when they lose their tail?
No,
They go to the retail store.
oh, of
Uh,
course.
Becca's like, please don't bring me into this. Please.
My kids are
Becca,
gonna
where do
roll their
rabbits go
eyes.
after they get married?
Mm.
Nothing? Anything?
Where?
They go on their bunny moon. All right, that one's not my favorite. I do know. Why do ducks make great detectives?
Why?
Because they always quack the case. Quack quack. All right.
And on that note, it's time to start the
Is
webinar.
it? All right. I'm more ready. We're ready to go. But no. Let's get started, Kevin. Take us away.
Perfect. Well, first and foremost, welcome. Thank you all for joining for today's conversation. Dad jokes aside, I think we'll have a pretty good conversation here today. The topic for today is really around the customer lifecycle playbook. Today, we're going to talk about how this cycle operates, really from the first call to the final invoice, and then how to reinvest your time and energy to expand your business as a whole. Right now, contractors are investing now more than ever to generate leads, but really the real revenue problem isn't around the generating of the leads. It's actually what happens after the homeowner raises their hand. Between slow responses, inconsistent follow-up, messy handoffs, bad documentation, even around friction with payments or even a missed opportunity to ask for a review or referral, it can quietly drain the value out of the lead you already paid for or paid to acquire. That's why today we're going to be discussing the entirety of the customer life cycle, not just one isolated stage or conversation. So together with Builder Prime, CompanyCam, and gFour Marketing, each supporting different stages of that journey, and how together we help create a connected cycle where marketing supports sales, sales supports operations, operations earns the trust, and that trust helps generate the next great opportunity. We'll also be joined by Charis Barker, COO of Twist and Spout, talking about another great dad joke. Charis is a mutual customer of all three of our companies, and she'll be here to help us show that it's not just all tech talk, but how it's helped make a difference inside a real contracting business. Now we can move over to the next slide. So we'll talk about an overall agenda. Let's really kick things off with a round of introductions to our panelists today. After that, we'll touch on the lifecycle framework, what goes into it, and what you should be looking to get out of it. After that, we'll cover the tech stack and how that makes that possible. But I think the biggest piece of this overall is going to be the conversation with Karis and the customer story, how all of this really looks in practice and not just in theory, right? We'll also end with a final Q&A and a final wrap up. And so I guess with that, let's get started.
Let's go.
I'll kick things off with an introduction of myself. My name is Kevin Cairns. I'm the Senior Integrations Manager at CompanyCam. I've been here for a little bit under a year and am based in Chicago. Karis, I'll pass it over to you.
Okay. I am Charis Barker. My husband and I own and founded Twist and Spout in Springdale, Arkansas. We've had a bit of an evolution over the last couple of years. Once we moved to a new market, a new area, didn't know anyone, didn't know anyone in the community, but we've been in this space, construction and even same day bath for many, many years. So we didn't start off as completely green, but we've had to learn a lot for a new market.
Chris, if you want to go up next.
Yeah, you got it. My name is Chris Rice. I'm the Director of Partnerships for Builder Prime. Been with Builder Prime almost a year now. coming around, but I've been in the industry for a while and really happy to be here with my friends and no, very exciting. Good, great stuff today.
Amazing. And Becca, to finish
Awesome.
it out.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Hi, everybody. I'm Rebecca Mayo. I'm the Director of Partnerships here at gFour Marketing, and I also have the pleasure of getting to work closely with Chris and Kevin in this best industry of home improvement. So
Yeah.
we're super happy to be here.
Amazing. We'll jump up to the next slide, which is the life cycle framework. I'm not going to take too much time on this slide alone. Really, it just comes down to what I mentioned before about what we're going to talk about for this framework. While we're going through this entirety of the presentation, but also through the customer story, I just want to make sure that everyone keeps in mind really the 4 stages that go into this framework. And those are lead stage, win deals, collect payment, and reinvest. That is mostly self-explanatory, but it really comes down to what that means in practice. And so going through that, I'll talk about lead stage and how that is really all around and centered around generating and qualifying demand, effectively what goes into finding and acquiring new customers. Beyond that, it's winning deals, which again should be self-explanatory, but behind that and digging a little bit further, it's about pipeline and how you follow up and how you build what your close rate is. So effectively, we got someone on the line. How do we make sure we give them a winning view of our business and making sure that they have a positive customer experience? After that, there's collect payment, effectively just reducing the friction and protecting your cash flow. And that just means project is done. How do you collect payment that is in the easiest, most frictionless possible way? And lastly, turning that into the reinvestment section of this as well, turning job outcomes into smarter marketing. And at the tail end of that, it's really just meaning you already won the deal. You did a great job. Now, how do you set yourself up for future success with the next opportunities in front of you? Next slide, please. Awesome. Now with Builder Prime, I'll pass it over to Chris to talk about Builder Prime as a whole.
Thank you. And yeah, just to give you a quick overview. So really the CRM is the center of things. It is your one source of truth. And that's where the information that, we find that every gap between your tools is a leak in your revenue. So having that connection, having CompanyCam integrate into the projects on Builder Prime so you can get that information, get all those photos right there, is making sure that everything is communicating. The same thing when you're talking with, we'll just focus on gFour at the end, passing those customers that you've had onto gFour so that they can do their follow-up, get those reviews, referrals, and provide a thank you. All of that centers around the data that is in your CRM. So we see ourselves as the home improvement operating system where all these other pieces connect. So that data that is here is where everything else really starts and where it all happens. So with that, I'm going to kick it off to Kevin.
All right, on to the next slide, talking about CompanyCam. When it comes down to it, if you aren't already familiar with CompanyCam, the biggest tagline that we can say is just that photos equal proof. Homeowners hire who they can see, and I think that really comes down to a lot of different versions of that, right? So having before and after photos of the job site make companies that you select, who you search for, it makes you the obvious choice because you not only have a backed opinion of what that company may be, but you also have physical proof. Pictures of the job, a picture of a job well done, and a way to say that this isn't just all talk. It's not just, bought reviews. It is specific examples of why we work well and how that means for your business and what you can do to win new business moving forward. It's also about visual proof, really just making sure that as a project progresses, you can see everything that is done, everything that is being talked about, making sure that you can share that with the customer as a whole, the homeowner, and say, this is where the project stands. What questions do you have? What do you need? Do you have anything else that you need from my team? It's just about building and establishing a level of trust in that operations. I talked about that at the very beginning, about building trust with the customers so that when you have these customers for a one-time job, it evolves past that into a longer term project or a longer term relationship. A good example, I was talking to the folks backstage just a little bit ago. I'm getting some work done on my basement because it flooded in Chicago, which is always fun. And funny enough, we worked with the same contractor that did the entirety of the basement 5 years ago. And a big part of that is knowing and trusting the work that has already been done. And having pictures like this, having a story like that is exactly what helps sell for future opportunities moving forward as well. And with that, I'll pass it over to Becca at gFour.
Yes, absolutely, Kevin. Well, just to wrap up and put a bow on this story. So we have all the operational data organized. We provide a wonderful customer experience. We have the proof, we have the visuals. We truly provide that great experience for the homeowner. The next question is, how do we turn those homeowners into referrals and repeat jobs? So we're excited to talk about that today, and that is what gFour does best, is helps our contractors take the customers that they've done work for and create customers for life out of them. So we'll dive deeper into that. But Kevin, I'll kick it over to you.
Perfect. So that moves into the customer story. Like I said, we're not going to spend too much time talking about us and how great we are. I know everyone loves to hear about tech companies talking about AI and all the fun stuff that we have coming out. But realistically, what it comes down to is, again, that story of trust about the customer journey. And Charis, I think this is where you fit in perfectly overall to this story as a whole. I know you gave us a quick introduction, but I would love to hear a little bit more. I mean, you've done it, you live it. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you got here, what brought you into it, and what really makes you successful today?
Well, we've both my husband and I grew up in the construction industry. So, Chris, you would appreciate this. I tell this joke on repeat a lot. I, growing up in a construction family, we were required, we had to work as children, and the requirement to work on the job was that you had to be potty trained. And so I potty trained early. So I've been in the industry since I was two. So, I mean, we're going on like 44 years now. So I know I don't look like it, but I have that much experience. But going into it, I've worked through all the different aspects of a construction company, from literally picking up trash and putting it in the burn pile to cleaning the jobs, and then moving into book work and customer service, and then payroll, all of those different aspects. When we moved markets in 2021, my husband had risen to the role of owner in our previous company and had had several different divisions. And so we moved to Arkansas in 2021, thought we were going to be one thing. And then as we learned more and more about ourselves and how this market responded to things, we've had to shift and adapt and find something that could be scaled into the size that we have on our vision board for where we want to be.
That's amazing. I love that. And just the fact that you are adaptive enough and being able to say, okay, maybe this isn't working, maybe this will work a little bit better, just trial and error sometimes, right? But
Mm-hmm.
also having that plan. I mean, you already mentioned the vision board where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that helps immeasurably as you get started and as you start to lay out some of the plans for what comes next, right?
For sure.
Um,
For sure.
I think one question that I have is when you talk about specialties, when you talk about what you want to focus on, what's in your wheelhouse, how did you pick that? How did you develop that further? How did you make that as like this is the go-to when this comes up? This is the one that we want to pursue 100% of the time and put a lot of effort and time and energy into.
I think the biggest thing it comes down to is scaling. I love design build. That's where that's what I just grew up loving to do. And my husband and I worked together on that, and it was so much fun. But it's a very difficult specialty to scale. And if you want to get beyond just making a living or having a job and to build something that you can expand, you can grow, you can repeat, you have to have it systemized and um, built into um, you have to have it written down. So you can have SOPs and KPIs, and that way you can, once you have it nailed down, you can multiply it much easier. And that's kind of where we ended up landing in the one day bath space, is because everything we thought we were going to be able to do, when we started really looking at our goals and how are we going to get there, we realized we can't repeat that at scale. We could make a decent living, but that's not what we want. We want everybody in our business to make a decent living. We want everyone to have opportunity to grow. And so we had to make our goals bigger to fit their goals. And that meant we had to systemize. And so then we ended up landing back in the one day bath space.
I love it. That's such a good story to tell. I think just to follow up from that, and you mentioned systematizing things and making sure that you have SOPs and you're building up what you need to hit for KPIs. What
Mhm.
role did technology play as a part of that? I know I said I wouldn't really spend too much time on technology and talking about us, but obviously that plays a part into it, right? About how you build out that process, how you write these things
Mhm.
down, right? What role does
Mhm.
that really play as part of the overall process for you?
Um, where do where do the holes or where do things generally fall through the cracks is we would have to look at each area of that. And generally it came down to human error. Like I remembered to ask this question here, and then you get to the next job, and you're like, okay, did I ask this customer or did I ask the other customer? Or did I tell them this or did I tell that to the person yesterday? So you have to have something you can follow. And so we have got it set up now for like, just when a lead comes in, they're asked a certain set of questions. They're going to get a phone call a certain amount of time because we're going to have an automation that says a lead came in, call them. Then you're going to have a script for them to follow. It's going to ask the same 4 questions, and then depending on the answers, kind of go from there. After they hit that, it goes into it. We have just everything is built out so human error is minimized at every step of the journey of a customer. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but by using the different technologies, we've kind of tried to make everything where it's just not based on someone's memory. It's based on what's next. In CompanyCam, it's the checklists. In Builder Prime, it's our automations. In gFour, it runs into the same thing.
Charis,
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I love that.
something I just thought about that is really interesting to me is when I'm talking to partners and they're telling me stories of how they're scaling the business, a lot of the time they also share with me as they scale, there seem to be more and more tools and tech and platforms available to them.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
guess a good question I want to ask you while we have everybody here is how do you guys decide specifically which tools are worth investing in and how do you go about making those decisions?
It kind of depends on what problem it solves for us. So a lot of times, if it saves me time or money, is the biggest thing. Like I pay for certain tools. I can justify a Claude subscription because it's going to save me at least an hour, probably a day. But I'm like, if I can make it pay for itself, 1 hour a week, I'm good. I can pay for that. So but with I just try to figure out where does it save me the time and save me the energy. And if it can do that, or if it can make the customer experience better, make it more smooth, like just more streamlined, we're going to have to look at the cost and then look at how much could that propel us further. When we build out systems, because of our goals, we're always trying to build everything to where it works for right now, but it also can handle 10 times the volume. So sometimes that means I'm a little more detailed in what I'm building now than we actually need because I want to make sure it has the capacity to grow with us. And that's where a lot of the tools come in. Like sometimes I can't afford them yet until we get to a certain volume or a certain amount of customers per month or things like that. But generally, if I can make it save us time or money, we're going to go ahead and do that. And then sometimes this goes on my list of when we get to X, I'm going to move into this.
I guess, and one thing just to follow up on that, how do you stay abreast on the new technology in the marketplace? I mean, there's so much stuff coming at us right now. How do you do that?
Well, the robots that seem to be in control of the world and listen on our phones often just stick it into my feed, so
Hmm.
I can't get around it. But we also do a lot of education around going to different conferences, being a part of different masterminds, things like that, so we can make sure we are exposed to some of the newer technologies and what's available, and of course, podcasts and things like that.
Awesome. I think that's really helpful, honestly. I know you talk about the scaling aspect of it, and it's almost like planning ahead of where you are right now and making sure that you have room to grow and room to catch up, and basically a way that you are building this map for yourself and for that growth side of the business. And I think that that really matters, I think, exactly to the methodology that you have of basically getting the right systems, the right process, everything in the right place right now so that when things start to get harder, as you start to scale, as you start to operationalize more, as more jobs come in and you have to start thinking
Mhm.
about hiring more people, it's a lot easier because you have this process in place. Can you talk a little bit more about, and I know you already mentioned effectively like the questions to qualify this customer as they come on, whether it's on the
Mhm.
website or via the phone. Can you tell us
Mhm.
a little bit more about that start of the process? How you came up with those questions? What got you started to say, let's start the qualifying before we even get involved? Like, can you walk me through that a little bit from the front end of the cycle?
So like when a lead comes in, they're going to have expressed an interest in some way, whether it be a lead aggregator, our website, Google Ads, Meta, any of those type of things. They're going to have expressed a need or a want at some point. And so we are the way we've developed these has really just been educating ourselves. Like we've done a lot of Megan Beattie's stuff. We've done Tony Hody's stuff. I mean, all the different like lead gen, like gurus that are out there. They have best practices they talk about. And
Hmm.
we get into it and we're like, okay, we're gonna call 3 times the first day and 15 times in the first 5 days. And I just remember I have this real adversity to like I really don't want to bother people and call them too much. And I just remember Megan Beattie being like, you call them until they tell you to die, or whatever it is she says. It's always so funny. She's just so blunt about stuff, but she's just,
Yeah.
you just, until they tell you to go away or they're dead, like you just keep calling them. And, when I started putting those into practice, because of course I was the first person to start making phone calls, right? I mean, it was a 2-man show for a while. And, you just start calling people. And we started realizing, okay, we get better results with this call cadence. And so
Mm.
we would write it down. And so then, I mean, even this week, I'm tweaking like our automations in Builder Prime because I'm finding, okay, wait a minute, I need to call this way or that way. Um, and so I have it set up to, as soon as the lead comes in, it'll pop up and say, speed to lead. You have an 80% better chance if you call them within 90 seconds. Like that's just the little banner that pops up because I want it to remind my lead setter that she's got to just be on it. Like she cannot wait around. And then sometimes it depends on the where they are in our pipeline. Sometimes the script, I have it on the automation if it's kind of short. And then sometimes I just have it in a notebook with our scripting. Um, does that answer your question, Kevin, as far as like that part of it?
Yeah, I think that's amazing. The fact that you have that whole process set up, start to finish, and even the speed
Mhm.
to lead. I know early in my career as a BDR, starting up in sales, that was the number one thing. It's like the first lead that or the newest lead that comes into your pipeline is the best lead. You should
Mhm. Mhm.
actively get after those. So that's amazing to hear that kind of attitude with you as well.
I
And
love
it's
that you
really helpful
mentioned
with the
something.
automations because like I can have it text them immediately. I mean,
Right.
it when someone calls or sends in a lead form, I have it text me like, "Hey, we got your request. We are on it. We're going to call you soon. So be near your phone, and then see what happens."
And here we come. Now, I love how
Yeah.
you mentioned that, you do attend a lot of events. I mean, you and I, we met at the Success Society
Hmm.
last month. And, talking, some of the stuff Megan does. I'm actually going to be on a webinar boot camp with Megan tomorrow.
Okay.
And it's great. There are so many resources in this industry. There
Hmm.
are best practices. And I'm the same way. There are some things that, maybe it doesn't seem like, oh, that's not my style to call people. I don't want to blow
Hmm.
them up. But it works, and these people have proven it over time. So it's like why reinvent the wheel? Um,
Right.
and with that, when we were at Success Society, had a chance to talk to a lot of contractors, and this year has been weird for a lot of businesses.
Hmm.
It's been up and down. Weeds have, like it started off hot, then it got really quiet, then it got busier, then it got quiet again. It's been a really strange year, and
Hmm.
that lack of predictability is a curse for any business.
Yes, it
Um,
is.
what are you finding from like lead sources? Like, what is there anything that seems to be really sticking and working right now?
We're using as many lead sources as I can find. Um, and that's where being able to use the reporting to see where my leads are. I can tell based on I pull in, so I'll go in periodically and say for the month of August, what are all my leads? Okay. And I'll separate it by lead source. And then like, okay, how many appointments was I able to set from this lead source? How many demos do we actually have? How many canceled? How many sold? How many didn't qualify for financing? Things like that. So you can kind of, if you're tracking all of that, it just led me out because I'll try just about anything.
Okay.
And we have a budget for our marketing. So someone at one of the success society will say, I'm having good success with this lead gen or this method or whatever. So I will go in, try that, and then just track it.
Yeah.
And we usually give it about 4 weeks. And then we're like, hey, look, everybody from this lead source can't qualify for financing. So there's
Mm.
something here that
So
for
there's
me
different
in my
metrics that you're
market.
tracking to
Mhm,
prove the quality of that.
mhm.
And I'm sorry, I have to get a pitch. Are you using Bolt Insights for this? If not,
No, I'm not using Bolt
We
for
gotta
that.
talk.
Mm-mm.
All right.
I
But
know
anyway.
you told me last time.
But no, no, just a way to really just start asking these questions. I mean, I think that's where
Mhm,
again the technology comes in because you have that data, and now you have these
mhm,
reports built out, so you can see very, like you said, 4 weeks. You know very quickly.
mhm,
I love our friend Brian Gottlieb always likes to say,
mhm.
like with lead sources, you can be wrong, you just can't be wrong for long because that's when you,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, it adds up really fast.
yeah.
But
Now, when you've got all these leads in flight, so you're getting these leads that are coming in, you're managing all these different lead sources.
mhm.
What scares you? What's your biggest fear there?
um, I mean, just someone falling through the cracks. Like, I mean, depending on the time of day, it can be really tricky if you don't have, if the office isn't open to have follow up for that. Um, you know, who's manning the phones after hours? How does
Mm.
that work?
Have you looked
Because
for, are you using any AI tools for that right now? I know that that's
we're
been a
using
big movement
some,
recently.
we're using some, we're kind of experimenting with it now.
What's your thought on that? I mean, I go back and forth on it. I love the human touch, the personalization, being able to talk to
Mhm,
people. That's kind of the heart and soul of your business. But there's a place for technology too, for those after hours and to make sure you can get in touch with
mhm.
somebody quickly. Where do you stand on that?
I'm kind of mixed on it. I think, more and more people are accepting of it.
Right.
And it just kind of depends on the age demographic. We have, with one day bass, a large part of our customer base is older folks as they're preparing to stay in their home, age in place, safety, things like that. But we also have a significant number of people in like the 35 to 45 range. And they would rather book their own appointment, get a text that confirm, they don't care if it's a bot or not, as long as you give them what they need.
Good
So
old
we're
Gen
kind
X.
of, yeah, I mean, so you're kind of like juggling both, and so we mix it up with both of them. Um, I mean, and there's just going to be time. I'm not going to answer the phone at 1 in the morning. I'm not going to start calling people. I might promise them like a moon. I'd give them all kinds of crazy answers if you try to get me to call them at that time in the morning.
Yeah.
Um, but that's I think an appropriate time to use it for sure. So we're kind of playing with it. The jury's still out in a large part, but it is what it is.
And with your leads that are coming in, like you mentioned that you are, you've kind of built in these processes and you evaluate it and make changes. What does your follow-up cadence look like in general? When a new lead comes in, what are
Mhm.
those between automations and real and personal touches? What does that look like?
They're going to get hit the hardest the first 3 days. We're going to call them at least 3 times every day, for 5 days until I hit 15 times, and then we're going to kind of slow it down a little bit. But it's going to be a mixture of different times of day
Mhm.
and different, text messages and stuff. We've I'm constantly going in and tweaking the text messages to be like, okay, that has not gotten me any response. This one does get me a response. So I'm going to kind of use it earlier in the cadence versus later in the cadence. Um, I would say it's probably one text a day and 3 calls for the first 5 days. And then up until we get to 30 calls, that's where we generally, um, and then it just kind of goes on a drip campaign. And then we call them every couple weeks.
Got it. We don't forget
Awesome.
about anyone until they're dead, right?
That's right. Until they tell us they've
Or they
gone
tell us
on.
to leave them alone. Got it. Oh, it makes sense. That's great.
That's
Mhm.
amazing. I love the fact that you have this cadence, this process down, but you also leave enough room for yourself to grow and evolve what the process could look like. Because what's working
Mhm.
today could be very different from what works tomorrow. I mean, you already mentioned, the different lead sources you'll take from wherever,
Mhm.
right? And I think
Mhm.
that's such a vital thing to realize is that one day it could all be coming from Facebook ads, or the next day it could be from Google reviews, or the next day it could be just purely referrals, right? It varies so
Right.
much day to day. So I love to hear that you're
Mhm.
constantly experimenting with that and making sure that you have all doors and windows open effectively to catch any of these that come in, which I think is amazing. I know we spent a lot of time just on this kind of track of the conversation, which is really on the front end of that whole lead stage
Mhm.
process, getting back to the life cycle framework. Moving forward, it more into like the operational side of it and the scaling aspect of it.
Mhm.
I know that's a really big and important part of the process that I think a lot of companies know that they absolutely have to nail because it's one thing to find these leads and acquire new customers, but if you're not doing great work, it's not going to matter because you're not going to have good proof to show for it. I think beyond that, I think just winning the job isn't the only thing that you have to worry about or to care about. I think another part of
Mhm.
it is that once the homeowner says yes to the project, they say, "Yep, I've got this issue. I had a few other quotes, but I think you are the winning company. I want to move forward with you." The challenge moves into more of delivering the experience that is more efficient and consistent. I guess from
Mhm.
that, can you take us through that process? You got through the lead, you won the deal. Now you're moving into
Mhm.
the project itself. What does that project look like in terms of making sure that you're communicating with the customer, making sure that you're showing them the progress? Can you just walk me through the overall project stage of what good looks like and what you would honestly like to see
Mhm.
as great? What comes next?
Right. Well, one of the things we work really hard on from the lead through the operations side is making sure we're consistent at each part. So our scripting that our lead setter uses matches what the salesperson uses, which matches what the project manager uses, which matches what the installers use. So that's super important to us. As they move through our cycle, like the lead setter will set them up like this is what's going to happen. The salesperson's going to come out, and then the salesperson says, now after we're done here, you're going to get a call from the project manager and to schedule your measure or whatever. And so we have automations that go up immediately once a customer's come in, they've been signed, they love their salesperson. The project manager gets a message, says you need to review the contract and schedule a remeasure. The lead setter is the same person now I have doing the same, both of them, but she gets a thing, says call and make a welcome call to the client. So we try to hit all of those within the first 3 days because, of course, you have the 3-day right to rescind. And so we want to make sure they kind of stay on that high. So they're still very excited about their project. And by the time we get to that 3 days, they've already had their remeasure. They've already been welcomed to the company. And so we kind of have it. We have a couple of different text messages that go out based on where they are. So they get or emails. Once the contract has been signed, I think an hour later, we have it send them a welcome letter from my husband and I, kind of walking them through what to expect next, explaining the different parts of our pipeline, how they're going to fit in there. And then when they pay a deposit, they get a text message that says, congratulations, your deposit's received. You have moved into our pipeline. Once it's been ordered, you're going to, all these, it just kind of, a lot of them are a little bit vague because too much specific information can cause you a lot of heartache. We learned that the hard way. So they're going to get, as they move through each process, they're going to get text messages and emails that kind of let them know we haven't forgotten about them, and mixed in with some phone calls. So the lead setter does that welcome call. About 2 weeks later, she calls and says, hey, I'm just doing a customer care call. How are you doing? Have you thought of any questions that I need to follow up on? They say yes or no. She would follow up on those as appropriate. And then she said, so I'm going to send you an email with a link to your, I forget the name of the process we have it called, but it's their CompanyCam link that gives them before and after and during photos. So they will have access to this link and they're encouraged to download them. So if they ever need to go back and reference where things are in the wall behind their tub or shower, they have that easily available. And this is another just kind of touch point throughout the process while they're waiting generally. Because you have that whole like product ordering queue where we're just waiting for stuff to get in. It's a really boring. I mean, our emails and texts say, "We know you're bored. We're so sorry." This is the rough time where you just have to wait.
I love how you
But
lean into that. That's great.
I mean, we have to we want to acknowledge like kind of the elephant in the room. Now you're going to be bored. You're not going to hear much for the next 3 weeks. But then once the order is in, we've checked it for quality control. You're going to get we put a placeholder on the Builder Prime production calendar. So that way, if they do call in with a question like, do we have any idea when I'm going to be installed? You're going to say, I have a penciled in date, but we won't know for sure until it's here. It kind of helps. And then once it's scheduled, they get another text saying, congratulations, you're scheduled. It'll be here at, we'll be there at 8 a.m.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that throughout the entire process, it seems like there are these key inflection points almost of like once this, or honestly, even these gates, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
once this step happens, let's move it into this conversation bucket, this automated action, this thing, that thing, whatever. And a lot of that
Mm-hmm.
is for customer communication, especially, and making sure that they're abreast of everything that's happening. What does that look
Mm-hmm.
like internally? In terms of what messages you send to your team, your operations, your crew, your this, that, or another. What does all of that look like behind the scenes?
Well, it kind of keeps, I can look at it as an owner and know where they are in the process at any time. The automations, like it gives it to our project manager. He knows this contract is here. So I've got to check it and make sure the salesperson accounted for everything. He has to do that first. And then he would know to make any change orders or things like that as necessary. And then he knows that until the deposit has been received, he can't order anything. And we have to also make sure it's past a 3-day right of rescission. Which, Chris, you might want to add this to your list. It can't be both, and it has to be one or the other.
Okay.
And so I needed to have both qualifiers. They need to have paid a deposit and passed the 3-day right of rescission. Right now, that's a manual thing for us. But we do. I've put it on the checklist. That's manual, so he knows that. So once we're past that, we get into he knows he can order it, and then once it's ordered, we just have to track it through the supplier system. Does that answer your question? Like, it's just, I know it's a little bit convoluted still, but we just kind of can look at what we have on order, what's been received, what's scheduled, and we can answer questions when they come in.
Yeah, that's great. I'm going to give you a second to breathe because I feel like we've been peppering you with questions. I want to have Cole, if you can send the poll in the chat right now, really around, because I think, Charis, to your point, there's the blend between automations, AI, and then the manual touches as well. I would love to ask the group as a whole, how involved do you have AI as part of your business right now? How much are you using it? How well are you using it? Do you think that there's anything that you'd be doing better? I would love to hear from the group as a whole. So we've got that poll up now, and I'm already starting to see some answers coming through, which is great to see. Of the answers that are coming in, it seems like predominantly a lot of people are using AI, and I think that shift and that wave is starting to come in more and more and
Mhm.
be a lot more appealing because I think to your point, Charis, it's about what you can almost offload and not have to worry about the work that you don't have to think about, right? It's on in the background, it's managing, it's doing this, that, or another thing. So I think that's great. The fact that there are a bunch of folks that are already using AI, but even the folks that aren't really using it right now, there's the intention or the desire to get into it. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like part of that is you just have to dive into it a little bit, right? You have to play around with it and see what works for my business, what makes the most sense, how can I adapt this into my current workflows, right?
Yes, and I think it's really helpful to develop consistency because we want things to kind of mirror each other through each step, and so we'd like make it make sure that this checklist kind of follows up on that one. And, it just kind of keeps it consistent. And I love too, like you can have it do it in different voices if you need to, just to make sure. I mean, depending on what it is, obviously, but I'll tell it I needed this type of automation. What would be the best way to do it? Give me some sample text to use. And then I'll tweak it so it doesn't look like AI because there are some key giveaways when you copy text. But
Exactly. I'm already taking notes right now, making
Yeah,
sure
there we go.
I can copy that.
So now, Charis, we've got you've gone through everything. You invoice, we collect the payment. I mean, that's a big piece of it. Are you collecting payments in the field?
It depends. We're working towards that, but a lot of times clients are not there when we
Okay.
wrap up a job. And so that kind of has complicated it. but a lot of times I get, if something goes on the schedule for 2 days, I get an automation saying, hey, Karis, they've been there. It's the end of day 2. You need to invoice them.
Got it.
Um,
Yeah.
mhm.
But your field techs, they have the ability to take payments if the customer can, or is that something still working towards?
We're still working towards it. They have to, we have a couple of different things we're kind of playing with, but a lot of times people are wanting to pay with a check or they have to be sent a finance confirmation, and the field guys do not have the access to our
Got it.
financing software.
Makes sense. So Becca, I want to turn it over to you. Now that the job is done, where do we go from here?
Yeah, you know what I was just thinking when you were talking, Karis, is how impressive it is that you guys are getting that communication with the homeowner from the very beginning. You're keeping them in the
Mhm.
loop, you're providing them with a phenomenal customer experience. And to me, that's evident on your Google review page, your Google My Business. You have a 4.9 rating on
Mm-hmm.
Google, which is amazing. So, one thing that I would love to ask you, and I would love for our attendees to hear you answer this question, is how are you guys using that process of providing an exceptional customer experience from the very beginning and turning the completed job into a referral or a repeat customer? Talk to us about that a
Mm-hmm.
little bit.
Yeah. So, we from the very beginning, we were very focused on building out our Google reviews. So we've done, different incentives for our employees. And it's across the board. It wasn't just installers. Did the person who answered the phone, did they do a good job? They can ask for they can ask for a review to it. You have to be careful with that. But we've always incentivized our guys. If they get a Google review and their name is mentioned, then they're going to get a $50 bonus. So what we have them do as part of our install packet, when they finish the installation, the client gets a little envelope. This has our logo and stuff on it, and it has the cleaning guide, and it has a referral card. And there's a place for the employee to write their name, and it says, hey, want to tip your installer? If you leave me a Google review with my name, I'll get a bonus. And so that has been pretty good. I mean, they'll fight over who gets to leave
I
the
love
card.
that.
I
That's a
mean,
great strategy.
we've done different things. Sometimes we have posters in the office and we'll draw it on there. It just kind of depends. Sometimes we'll be like, hey, we really want to hit. I know we want to get to 100 reviews, so we did like a big push at the end of the year, so they would get a big bonus if they got so many personally right before Christmas, so it would pay for their Christmas.
Nice.
We did that every time we got to a big kind of a mark of where you
That
are in your
worked. I
Google
think you're over
reviews.
200 now.
We
So,
are.
yeah, that's great.
That's really great. Yeah. Another thing I was going to ask you is, and not to put you on the spot, but a question I get a lot from our partners and the discussion around what percent of the business comes from referrals. And, since I know you've recently joined gFour as a client,
Mhm.
which we're so happy about, but how has that changed for you since you've become a client and gained more of a system and process around building a true referral program?
Well, we immediately started seeing more Google reviews. That was almost instantaneous. And so what we noticed particularly with that, because we already were pretty solid as far as like our installers asking for that, and they had good success with it. They realized it can make a significant, you know, bonus at the end of a pay period. But what we're starting to see more of is we're getting Google reviews from, if it's a couple, from both people. Instead of just one Google review, it's going to have both. They're having more pictures uploaded, which is a bigger bonus for our installers. So we kind of redid our card to where it uses the gFour, because the way y'all have it set up, they can either do it on Google or Better Business Bureau, which I think is helpful for those that don't have Gmail or don't have a Google account. A lot of times they click on it and they can't they can't like go any further unless they create a Google. So that having the ability for them to do it on Better Business Bureau with one link, we're just starting to see it more and more from both partners or both spouses. So that's doubling our reviews. I'll take it all day long.
That's fantastic.
Mhm.
Um, Now we're running up against time here. This has been an amazing conversation.
Hmm.
Paris, we really appreciate you taking the time and working with us here and sharing your experience with these folks. what would you tell another contractor who's afraid of technology and, afraid to over systemize or maybe pushing too forward, afraid of AI? And what's your advice?
Um, if you want to grow, you have to make something that's repeatable. And the only way I know that I can be, I mean, like I'm a really disciplined person. I mean, you could set your clock by our schedule for the most part, but like if I don't have stuff automated, I'm going to forget. That's just the nature, human nature. And so um, I think that anytime you can, if it's a task that needs to be done, even a human task, like having an automation to make sure like someone knows to do it and then they have to check it off that it's been done. That allows me to hold my team accountable too. I can go back in. I mean, one of the things I love about Builder Prime has the Ring Central integration, and I love being able to go in like this. I'll get a heads up. This is a new lead setter, or this appointment didn't quite qualify. So I can go back and listen to the call. Okay, did you hit all the questions? Well, see, you missed this one. So this was not a qualified demo. So it allows me to go back and better train my staff. It allows me to just kind of from not having to be the person doing everything, I can kind of like make sure all the plates keep spinning the right direction at the right speed from
Well, that's
behind
one
the
of the things that
scenes.
these masterminds teach is, how do you get out
Mhm.
of the business? Like, and I know, we talked about it when after Success Society, you and Eric actually took a few days off.
Oh, we did. It was
I
I
mean,
was so excited.
that's a big step. I mean, I grew up with my parents ran a business growing up, and that's a big step to be able to take an actual vacation or a few days
Hmm.
off. That's huge. That means you're doing something right. As
Yeah,
far
it was
as
very nice.
putting other people in place who you
Mhm.
trust who can run the business. That's huge.
Well, and two, having the automations being online, I was able to kind of just check in as needed. If I needed to answer a question, I could hop into Builder Prime or we could hop on CompanyCam and look at the pictures and be like, okay, you need to do this. Because we would get a message from a project manager because we still have to answer those questions. We're still small enough that we're fairly involved with troubleshooting. But all of those things, those tools make it easy for us to hop in from wherever we are and make sure stuff is handled.
Got it.
Amazing. And I love that you have all this set up to Chris's point that you can take the time off that you need so you're not always on. You have these tools in the background that can help you. I guess from that perspective, and I think that also goes into the scale perspective of it all and making sure that you're running the business as best as possible. I think when it comes to what is put into practice versus what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, like what has been the real impact of having some of these tools at your disposal? Are we talking about like more jobs per month, more visibility, more time in your day? Even stronger margins, better profit
Mhm.
margin or profit rate. Like what does that really look like to you in terms of real business impact?
I think probably the biggest things I handle most of the customer service up until they get there to sell the job. Like I handle like setting the appointments and stuff like that. That's kind of my wheelhouse, the marketing thing. It's allowed me to do more with less. So there are less people. With some of the automations, I don't have to have three people calling on the phone. I can have one person. Um, I can have, there's emails that go out on a regular basis versus me having to like manually type up an email. There's templates, there's um, all kinds of things that like if I need to send the same message every time, it's just, you set it up and boom, it's just firing whether you're there at the office or not. So I can work on a leaner staff. Um, the processes we have down with our operations side, it does allow them to do more jobs in a month. And if you're doing your books like in an accrual method, like we know it's all about the installs. How many can you get done this month? And that's going to determine how much money you make.
There you go.
I love that. Karis, one question I always love to ask on our webinars, and I feel like you just have such good insights to share with our attendees today, but what is one piece of advice that you would give our attendees watching this live or recorded to take away with them and implement or think about and consider for their own business?
Specialize. I mean, if you're going to want to grow and scale something, it has to be repeatable. And so, you can't specialize if you do a million different things. I mean, well, you can't scale if you do a million different, I guess you can specialize in a million things, but um, in order to make it where you could step back and be able to multiply your business. You have to just narrow your focus into what you feel like you really can do well and you can repeat, and then build systems to support that, and then be able to step back and watch it go.
Amazing.
I love
Amazing.
that.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for all of this. Honestly, this has been incredible. I'm going to ask to move over to the next slide, which is going to be just a couple of the QR codes. So if you are still an attendee right now, feel free to scan one of these codes to learn more about Builder Prime, CompanyCam, and gFour marketing. Um, Honestly, can't say enough about the conversation. I
Huge round of
know.
applause, Charis.
Yeah, truly. So many questions that we peppered you with. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you sticking with us, answering all of these, and answering them with such genuine intention of what it means for your business, what you've done, how
Mhm.
you've set these things up. I know a lot of people like to have this secret sauce that they kind of hide behind or make sure that no one else can copy. But everything that you've said, I feel like is so perfect in not just building the business, but growing it, scaling it, and turning it into something that can be a repeatable process where you do get to take a
Mhm.
vacation. You do get to have your own downtime and take some of the hours that would go into documentation, into follow-up and other things, and actually turn that inward into your home life, being able to spend time with family,
Mhm.
being able to spend time with friends. So I think that's fantastic. So just wanted to throw this poll up as well of just if you would like to learn more about any or all of our partners, about the attendees, the panelists. I'll throw that onto the screen right now. And if anyone has any questions, I know that we talked about a Q&A at the tail end of this. I know we've got about 8-10 minutes left. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free, put it in the chat, raise your hand, let us know.
Yeah, we'll put them out there. And I was just, I have to ask Charis one more question. Where'd the name come from?
Mhm.
How do you guys do that?
Oh, Twist and Spout.
Yeah.
Well, we had a much more generic name when we first started, and we rebranded in May. Um, Honestly, it was so much trial and error. I cannot tell you how many URLs we bought. Like, we thought of the name. Oh, that's good. Let's see if the website's available. So we just go buy it. We're like, we're not sure we like it, but we're going to buy it anyway. I mean, they're cheap at that point.
Yeah.
And we probably got up to about 150. But one day it just came to Eric, Twist and Spout. And so we got a branding company, and just kind of gave them some like
Was
inspiration
he watching
that we
Ferris
had.
Bueller and he's like, I got it.
Not quite, but I mean, you're trying to like figure out what's memorable,
Yeah,
and we're getting a lot of really positive feedback, but people
I
can
love it.
remember the name, and
I
so that's
love
really,
a bathroom worth shouting about.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
no, it's
it
great.
really has been fun.
That's awesome. And it should be fun. I mean, this is what you do.
Hmm.
It's what you're doing every day. And said it's a family business.
Hmm.
Your kids growing up in this too. I think it's fantastic. I mean, I love that. And no, I just wish you guys all the success. And
Thank
we're
you.
so grateful to have you here.
Good. We've enjoyed it. It's been fun.
Cool.
Amazing. Well, I'm not seeing any questions come in through the chat. Obviously, this remains open. At the tail end of this, we will send the recording to all attendees and everyone who registered, so we'll make sure that that goes out fairly soon. Again, just want to say a quick thank you to Charis. You've been amazing. Becca, Chris, as always, some of the best in the business. Great friends,
Love
great
you. Thank
people, great partners.
Mhm.
Quick shout out. Thank you to everyone who attended and who joined. And if there's anyone who has any other questions, feel free to reach out to any of us from this call, and we will be happy to help work with you and figure out how we can best help and serve you. So, again, thanks so much to everyone, and hope you learned something in today's call. I know I did, and I guess we'll leave it at that. Any
you. All
other
Well,
right.
thank you
closing
for
remarks?
having me.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All
everybody.
right. Thanks,
Thanks so
everyone.
much.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
See ya. Bye.